I'm the host with the most, baby. Podcasting for the masses, and I'm coming correct.
Normally on Bullseye View, we cover an array of topics from sports to family to life. The Titans just fired their head coach, Brian Callahan, so I feel it's important for me to be here for you, the Titans fan, and give my opinion. It might come off as a little surprising, but honestly, after I heard some of the comments after the game, most especially from Jeffrey Simmons talking about how practice went.
Just being honest, this probably was one of our worst week of practice. Came out flat Thursday and things like that in that nature too. Sometimes things carry over, and when you get initially, you have to prove it every week.
And then the rookie Cam Ward co-signing it.
He's not lying. Came out flat, and it's the way we played today. And so we just can't let that carry over.
And Cam Ward has been vocal earlier in preseason training camp about how practices were. So, at that point, that's kind of an indirect message. And to be honest, it took me back to a space that I'd been in before when I played with the Titans. It was 2005. We were 5-10, last game of the season, playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I just remember the night before the game in our team meeting, Jeff Fisher saying that we're going to do everything in our power to win this game. We still had Steve McNair, Frank Wycheck. Those were, some of our senior spokesmen. We also had a young Pac-Man Jones and a lot of young guys on the team as well. By Jeff Fisher saying we're going to do everything to win this game tomorrow, as a player, we believe in our leader. We believe that he's going to go out there, put forth a game plan that's going to help us beat this team that we know we can beat, because football players and athletes go into every game feeling that they can win regardless of their record. Just like the saying, any given Sunday. That's a true thing in the NFL as a player, because we feel any given Sunday, any opponent can get it. And this Sunday, I really believe the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to get it, although we had won 5 games to this point. And mind you, I said Steve McNair's on the team, Frank Wycheck, Brad Hopkins, Billy Volek was the backup quarterback. Jeff Fisher decides to start Matt Mock, who is our third-string quarterback. And look, nothing against Matt Mock. Everybody should get their NFL moment. But I personally didn't feel this was the time for Matt Mock to have his NFL moment. We got Steve McNair. We got Billy Volek. They give us the best opportunity to win this game if we're really, really trying to win. Matt Mock goes out there. Matt Mock, I believe he's a dentist now. He's having a great career in life. Matt Mock did the best that he could do. Defensively, we were trash. Pac-Man was out there acting a fool. Reggie Williams, shout out to Reg. They both were rookies drafted at the same time. Friends. Reggie was getting the best of Pac-Man. However it went, Pac got ejected from that game. And it was just a terrible day in Jacksonville. And at that moment, on the ride back, on the plane, at night, I just was dejected, man. My feelings were really hurt, because I felt we went out there not even trying to win the game. And, my career was put at jeopardy because I went out there to play hard. A lot of players went out there to play hard that were starters. But we didn't really put forth, our best players to win this game. My point is, this is when Jeff Fisher as the head coach was the first time losing me as a player. So the next day in the team meeting, you normally have your exit meeting, and it takes about 10, 15 minutes. You talk about the season, the game before, and everything that's going to happen in the offseason, where you plan to go next year, right, wrong, or indifferent. And actually, that meeting was less than 5 minutes, man. And, I ain't going to hold you. I was a little saucy from the night before. I was still a little, not hungover. I was still a little drunk from the night before. And Jeff is like, if anyone has anything to say, raise your hand. So I raised my hand, and I asked him what we're going to do to get better. And he immediately says, we're going to bring in people to stop the run. So it's all right, cool. I guess that's a shot at me because I'm the starting linebacker. And then I'm like, all right, after that. And he's like, and then I cut him off. I said, well, there was a time when people respected Steve McNair. Frank Wycheck, Brad Hopkins. And, you know, now we're just running around doing, you know, whatever people want to do. And then he asked me to be more specific. Who am I speaking about? He wanted me to call people's names out, but that's not what it was about. For me, it was about that I got here in 2000 when the Tennessee Titans just were 1 yard short of the Super Bowl. So I knew what it looked like to play good football. I knew what championship football looked like. I knew what having a championship caliber locker room and a winning mentality was, and we didn't have that. And that shit starts at the top. So if once your best players start seeing that, it becomes an issue. So the short of it is, I recall our media relations guy, Robbie Bourne at the time, you know, after that, telling me, you know, Jeff wants to see you in his office, and I was like, man, season's over. I'll catch up I'll catch up in the spring. And I never spoke to Jeff about that. Mike Munchak, Hall of Famer, was one of our coaches at the time, O-line coach, very respected coach. He says to me, way to speak up. That was needed to be said. So coming from a Hall of Famer, I knew I might have been in the wrong, you know, but at the same time, that's just how I was feeling. I don't know, you know, Jeff will have to tell his own side if he even remembers it, but I know that I wasn't one to really challenge coaches, but as a player, I cared. To conclude my story, Jeff Fisher, they went out and they got Chris Hope, Kevin Mawai. He did things to make his team better because it was obvious that we were only a few pieces away. So, you know, the league will hold you accountable, but sometimes your players will hold you accountable. That next season, we drafted Vince Young as well. Vince Young went on to win Rookie of the Year. We had some great years to follow, but that 2005 season was one where I feel Jeff Fisher almost lost the locker room. The players that Jeffrey Simmons has shown to be and the player that Cam Ward has shown to be so far, they have a winning pedigree. Jeffrey Simmons was here when they went to an AFC championship. Jeffrey Simmons was here when they were people holding each other accountable. So Jeffrey Simmons knows what good quality football, championship football looks like. Cam Ward just came from college. He's obviously built his resume up, but he was a winner at the University of Miami last year, and ever since he's been in this locker room, he's shown and proved to be a winner. So at the end of the day, I think that Brian Callahan lost the locker room somewhere here in these last few weeks and was unable to recover it. For those listening and watching out there, I'd like to hear your thoughts on some of these things. But my thoughts on what the Titans may need moving forward, they need a guy that's a black and white coach, and I don't mean color. You know, a guy that has no gray area, you know, that's coming in with a philosophy, offense, defense, and special teams, and has an expectation and holds the team accountable. I think the Titans definitely need somebody that is going to be more like Vrabel, that's going to hold these guys accountable. One of the first things that I heard when they got Callahan was like, oh, how people can be themselves. It feels looser around the facility. But obviously that's not what you needed because it didn't get you many wins. So there's a lot of talk around Nashville from the fan base. They always want to hear from ownership. And look, I thought Amy Adams-Strunk was very clear when she spoke this spring after firing Rand Carthon that Burke Nighthill would be first in command when it comes to football, when it comes to all things. Then you have Chad Brinker and then Mike Borgonzi. So when it comes to fans asking for ownership, I feel that's her answer. Where I would side with fans a little bit is, as a business owner myself of a coffee shop, Just Love Coffee here in Nashville, it's a franchise. And my franchise is one of the top 10 franchises. And the top 15 franchises, their owners are hands-on. They're in their stores at least 4 or 5 times a week, making sure operations are going. Like, I don't have a general manager. I'm the GM, and you know, GM, operator, all of those things. I wear a few hats, but I let my team run the shop. You know, they might alter some things, but as an owner, it's not really hurting business, so I let the team run the shop. Now let's get back to football. When I played with the Giants, the only other team I was on, Mr. Mara was at practice every day. Mr. Mara was vested in his team. Mr. Mara was talking to Jerry Reese, who was our GM at the time, and was very in tune to his product, to his team, just like like an owner would be. And the NFL, each team is obviously a part of the franchise, and each owner can run their team the way they choose. So to bring that to a wrap, Amy Adams, obviously, she wants the legacy of the Houston Oilers, Tennessee Titans to be a championship caliber team. She just hasn't found the right people to run the show yet. You know, she grew up within the family business. This is a family business for her. So obviously she wants it to do well, but they haven't put together the right people long enough to see it do well. So that's my response and reaction to, you know, when people are saying, well, why don't ownership speak? She doesn't have to speak. The people that she chose to speak are there. That's who should be stepping up to the podium and speaking on behalf of the owner. Switching gears, we talk a lot about life after football here on Bullseye View. Just recently, I linked up with a local legend that won a national championship with the Vols in '98 and now is a big-time entrepreneur. Check it out.
This week on What's Good in the Hood, I pulled up on my good friend, Will Bartholomew, owner of D1 Fitness. I'm gonna have a talk with him about the business, the ins and outs, but first, I'm gonna grab this workout. Go back to your college days. We played against each other, Syracuse, UT.
Yeah. 27 yards for the win, and it is good.
You guys went on to win the national championship. What made that team great?
When I look back at that team, the one guy that just kind of pops off the page is Al Wilson that we were talking about. Guy just like you, vocal leader, played middle linebacker for us. Al, I didn't realize it at the time. So in that game, I didn't realize that, like, you know, we were going to go on to win the national championship. Everybody was predicting us not to do that well that year. Right. But Al set the tempo, and it wasn't just in games. He set it in practice. Right. I mean, that dude, I had to go against him and block him in one-on-ones, and he would try to knock me out every practice.
Every time.
I think because when you have a player that elevates the rest of the team, I think that's what makes great teams. And that's what I really try to challenge everybody within my company. Like, hey, be that player that makes everybody else better.
Right.
Be that player that's going to do a little bit of extra, that when somebody walks into a staff meeting, they're like, man, I better bring my A game because that guy's going to call me out or whatever. And in a healthy manner, right? In a competitive nature, right? And so,
I mean, you got to hold people accountable.
You got to hold people
accountable. And those vocal leaders, I was a vocal leader, and not that that was just my style, similar to Al, but you want to win and to have a great team. I feel like you need those type of players. You're that player for your company. A lot of people don't talk about they talk about the transition for professional athletes.
Yeah.
You played in the NFL. What was the transition like for you, both mentally and then how'd you pivot, as you said?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was hard. Like, look, I look back at, like, when I blew my knee out, everything in my brain was like, oh, I'm coming back and playing. I'm gonna rehab, just like this is normal, this is par for the course, like, right? Let's get back. And the hardest part for me was sitting there at home watching my buddies on TV. And you're watching them make tackles, and you're like, man, they're making the blocks, making the touchdown. You're like, man, I'm missing out, you know? And I had to turn that energy into something. And I had a lot of soul searching there, you know. You had to, like, go like, hey, who am I? Who do I want to become? And I'd always loved business. I loved finance. I loved numbers. I had the opportunity to start something, and so I started D1 mainly because it was a passion project. I needed to turn that energy into something.
Right.
I didn't want to sit back and wallow. So my dad would always say, just anytime you're feeling sorry for yourself, go do something.
Was there a sense of failure? You got hurt. Like, I hurt my knee in year 10, and I got to come back, play for the Giants, didn't really work out too well. And then, 11-year career, going to Hawaii for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, that's literally how my career ended, but different story.
No, completely different. I blew my knee out, was doing rehab. I had my daughter, my first kid. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm a dad. I got to provide. I got no job. And so for me, there was this loneliness to it. But I think when you learn how to manage those emotions and you go, hey, listen, this could be an opportunity. I had been in lonely sports. I think wrestling really helped me. I was a wrestler. And it was like I'd been alone and been like, man, I have to go do the work. And so those like feelings of like, what do I do, kicked in, and you got to just take action. And so I started taking action, started creating things. I mean, you were at my very first original location, and man, it was bootstrapping, right? I was screwing the stuff together.
That's what I was saying. You created the first space for former athletes or athletes to come and get like a real training session. I go out to California and train, or I train at the facility with Steve Warderson, our trainer. But if you wanted to get out of those spaces and needed to be here, you provided that. And, from then to now, it's pretty amazing. You see all the names on the wall.
Yeah.
Where did the first business model come from, and how many times has it changed to what you got to now?
Man, it's changed a lot.
No, right?
A few times.
Right?
Yeah, we
have a loaded question.
We have some ups and downs. Look, anytime you build something over a 20-year window, you're gonna pivot and change. The one thing that I've been consistent on is I've been consistent on my character, I've been consistent on my commitment, and I've been consistent on my loyalty, not just to the business, but to people. I got, as you saw, a lot of people that have still with me for years, and I think when you do something for a long time, you can make a lot of mistakes, and then if you do it with great people that are striving, you end up figuring it out. The one thing, most businesses, unlike an NFL career, they're built over decades. They're not built over just 1 year or 2 year, over a 3-year contract. Right. And so when I got into it, it was like, man, the business model was really, it was the school of hard knocks. Like, I opened the location, I had no members.
Right.
So I was networking. I was out talking to everybody. Hey, come on in. Yeah, we'll take care of you. And then I didn't know how to hire people or fire people or how to charge. I was collecting cash.
Trust me, I know.
And so I was like trying to figure out all those different things. And throughout the years, obviously you build business practices and whatever, and we pivoted several different times. But I think looking back on that kind of journey of that up and down, it was more about the commitment and the character. And honestly, a lot of the stuff we learned in football.
Right.
Because, when you realize that, like, hey, every season isn't going to be that undefeated perfect season, right? Absolutely. Like Syracuse, y'all came into that year, y'all were probably a better team than us. Like, you had McNabb, you had all those great players, but it's like things happen, and then so it's all about how you take that, and do you wallow in it, or you just go take action, and that's kind of been. That's how I was raised. I was like, man, you just go get it. Go get it every day.
Your original business model definitely started with athletes. Peyton Manning, one of your former alum, and then you incorporated other athletes. And then what made you change from that model to, or do you still use that model? And was that effective, or was that just something you just felt with sports goes together?
When I first started, this was a lifestyle business. It was like,
I would think that would be great. Like,
I wanted to wear gym shorts and T-shirt and listen to rap music and motivate kids, right? So the first location had some success. Then I opened my second one and third one, and Peyton and I were working out together in the Tennessee weight room, and he was like, man, I'd love to be involved in what you're doing. And I was like, man, that would be awesome. I was like, marketing from Peyton Manning, this is great. And so he believed in me at an early age. And so what I did was I would partner with celebrity athletes.
Is it because he knew fullbacks are meatheads?
Yeah, that's right. He knew I was going to do what I was
Will's
told.
Will's going to be in the gym.
He's going to do it. He's
Will is definitely going to be in the gym.
And so, no, for those guys, what I did early on was I would partner up with celebrity athletes, and we would open a gym in those markets. So we ended up doing 32 corporate locations, big box gyms similar to this. And in about 2015, 2016, the model shifted. I had watched a lot of people call me and be like, hey, are you going to come to small town Arkansas? Are you going to come to Oregon? Are you ever going to come out to Montana? And it's like, man, our model's not really built for that. And so I looked at a bunch of other different business models, and to me, I did like what I try to tell my kids, which is go surround yourself with really smart people. I went and found people who were scaling fitness businesses and scaling the youth space. And I went and found the best, and I said, what are you doing? And went and watched what they were doing. And the one thing that popped off the page was, hey, this is built to be a franchise business. Because a local guy who really wants to run this business and hire the local talent, just like how you ended up coming here, is because we knew the couple same people, and these businesses are little communities. And so I was like, man, that's perfect for a franchise model. And so we started franchising in 2018. Fast forward to today, we got 165 D1s around the country. It looks different. It's 4,000 square feet.
Nah, I've seen them everywhere.
Still racks, still turf. At the end of the day, to me, athletics completely changed my trajectory of life.
Right.
Like, who knows where I would have been if I didn't have athletics. But and to me, the most beneficial things that it taught me were like teamwork, how to work with, amazing people and difficult people, and how to have character and do it, how to do it with, an intensity and a work ethic to make a difference. And so, when I look back, I go, man, pivoting to the franchise model was a really tough decision, but it's such a great decision. Sometimes those great decisions are the hardest ones.
Now it seems like, look, this one, even from where you started to where you are now, the OG, that's what I call it.
The
it's
OG.
Crazy. We were just saying my kids came here for soccer and stuff like that. You mentioned you went into franchising. Definitely when you go into franchising, you go into different communities. You come from the athlete space, but then you get people that, I want to own a gym. If they don't work out, or they might go to their local, back in the day, LA Fitness, however it is. What are some, things that you learned from franchising and having other people, maybe some headaches you had to deal with people that maybe just didn't understand the athletic space? Because what I do understand is owning a coffee shop the last 5 years is you have to be hands-on. I feel like a lot of people feel like, I'm going to let my brother run the gym, or my sister, or however that goes, or my guy that works out. But for me, I know you have to be hands-on. I've had a manager, I've paid, you gotta have your ass in there and make sure everything is clicking the way it needs to click.
Look, franchising is interesting. What we have found is number one thing is, and I use an adage, which is you win in the draft.
Right.
If you draft the right franchisee, you pick the right franchisee who's going to run the systems and processes, you're going to win. If your franchisee drafts a great general manager and great coaches, we're going to win. Right? So you win in the draft. So people. Like, I always emphasize people.
Yeah.
The second part of this is, and this is what you'll recognize this language, which is, can you follow the playbook?
Right.
Because
can't put you on the field if you can't follow the playbook.
Right. And so the number one thing we are constantly driving is, and we're constantly improving as a franchisor, is like we're constantly making the playbook simple, making it rememberable, making it to where we're testing it, making sure people are practicing it. We watch game film. We'll film them and then show them on screen. Like, hey, this is what you look like, just like we did. It's all these business practices from football, and so it's follow the playbook. And then the last piece of it, which I think is kind of the X factor, which is to be mission driven. We're very mission driven here. Our mission is to be the place for the athlete.
Right.
And so we're constantly driving that mission because, as you know, just like just like in professional football, you got these guys making millions of dollars. You got them, they're celebrities. They could do whatever they want to do. But the mission is always win the Super Bowl.
1,000%.
Right? And guys are like, they are doing whatever. These are guys that have more money. They don't ever need to work again. But they are sacrificing their body and their life to win a trophy. Right. Like, technically, they don't even all get individual trophies, right? And so if you think about it, it's mission-driven. Yeah. And so to me, I'm always pointing back to the mission and going, how do we get all our franchisees chasing that mission? And that's what, to me, is so important, which is like, your daughter, soccer players, like the mission is how do we make every athlete a little bit better?
Right.
And when they come in here, do they feel the character words that are on the wall? Do they feel inspired and motivated? Are they reaching goals? Because at the end of the day, if it's mission driven, you're going to work a little longer. You're going to show up a little bit better. All of those things versus like, hey, it's just a job.
Absolutely.
You probably played with guys, and you've seen it in your coffee business and everything, where people just show and it's just a job.
It's just a job.
It's just a paycheck. I call those people beers cold on Friday.
Yeah.
They're waiting for that beer. They're waiting for that beer on Friday.
The check's coming on Friday. They're gonna be at the bar, and that cold beer is gonna be ready. Like,
man, we don't want those people.
Right.
We want mission-driven people. People that go, man, I'll stay extra and talk to the client, and talk to the parent about their kid and what they just experienced. I'll go attend a high school football game, even though I don't, like our coaches, they don't have high school kids. They're going to high school football games and watching and cheering on these guys.
Makes the kid feel good.
And that's the right thing to do.
And
we don't pay them to do that.
You can get feedback. As a parent, I would appreciate that. I see the trainer there, and then talking to my kid, giving them feedback, and then, okay, boom, we know what to work on next time. I would appreciate that. How do you go, because you see all these different guys that, I'm a trainer. How do you go about picking your trainers specifically for your D1 establishments?
Yeah, so, obviously we want them certified. We are partnered with NASM, which is National Academy of Sports Medicine, so all our coaches are certified, but then we also have our own internal D1 certification that we have our master coaches. They actually have to certify every coach. And then beyond the certification, the big thing we look for is I'm going to call it personality, but it's really, can you motivate people? Sometimes it could be a quiet coach that'll motivate you. Sometimes it's a loud, boisterous coach, but really, can you motivate people? To me, that's who I want to work out with. I want somebody who's going to I want to show up every day and work with this person because they're inspiring me and motivating me. The technician, the super technical person, they still need to be able to motivate, and so those are the people in our industry that we're looking for. It's just those great personalities that, you want to show up for because, these, at the end of the day, working out's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. Doing it consistently and doing it day in, day out, it's tough.
And to get to the level that we got to as athletes, we understand that gratification of that hard work, that sweat that we put in, working with your brothers. So the people, your clients that come here and work, what's the gratification that you would they're gonna get their ass busted during their workout, but what do you feel they should be leaving with when they're done with their workout?
We do a cycle, which is 8 weeks. So if you train with us for 8 weeks, you're gonna get bigger, you're gonna get faster, you're gonna get stronger. If you're an adult athlete, you're gonna get lower body fat, you're gonna get leaner. We can almost guarantee that.
Yeah.
But what we find and we get the stories of are, these athletes, they come back and they're like, man, they talk more about their character shifting, their character change here. Hey, man, I was in a lonely spot when I was a free agent, and I came in here and trained here, and this was my place of refuge. We get the parent who maybe has been through a divorce, and it's like, man, if it weren't for D1, I wouldn't have had healthier habits. The kid who comes in here who, maybe wasn't great on their sports team, and all of a sudden they have confidence to show up and play harder. And so the halo benefit of just that confidence and discipline and perseverance and those types of things, I think that's ultimately what people are getting here, beyond just the physical appearance.
Who is your actual core clientele? What is your core business?
Yeah, so when you look at D1, we resonate with so many different people, right? So whether you're a 7-year-old or 11-year-old, and you're aspiring to be a D1 athlete, or you're an old has-been,
I'm
fullback,
ready. Throw us in there, linebacker.
Who's trying to feel like D1.
Turn my neck like this.
But at the end of the day, the business was built for the 7th, 8th, 9th grader, that kind of middle school athlete. That's who I started with. And
that
the
developmental stage. Teach them the right way.
Because I don't know about you, I didn't learn how to really properly lift weights until late in my high school career.
Yeah.
And
till
what I
college.
wanted,
I didn't lift weights till college.
yeah, a lot of guys. And so what I wanted to do was to be able to take that D1 style environment, like you had at Syracuse, I had at Tennessee, where it was like, man, structured programs.
Yes.
You have coaches that are teaching the proper technique. And so when you're in 7th and 8th grade and you're going through puberty and you're like having this awkward phase and you're trying to figure out, hey, how do I get better? And for us, we want to teach proper technique. So that way when we can weight load, so after they've hit puberty, we do start weight loading. Man, you know how to back squat properly.
Right.
You're not going to get injured.
Using
you know
the
how
right
to power
technique.
clean.
You're not going to hurt yourself.
That's right. And then, you can do so many different drills from a speed perspective, explosive perspective. So that way, these athletes, they're excelling and beyond. And so that's always been the kind of the core customer, and then all our other programming is kind of branched off of that.
Right.
I mean, a lot of guys, like pro guys and combine guys, they get the media recognition, but a lot of them started with us when they were like in 7th and 8th grade.
So how do you get the non-athletic, 45-year-old mom that, may have used to be an athlete, but they haven't been in the game for a while, to come in here when the NBA young boy is blasting and you see people doing high knees with the ropes. It's very intense in here.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I mean,
how do you win that and break the ice with that one?
We are not for everybody.
Right,
so,
no, for sure.
if you're wanting to not really work and sweat and really get
there
after
it is, right.
Get on your hands and do bear crawls and stuff, then, look, there's a lot of other great other locations.
I go to
Lifestyles.
It's Lifetime Fitness sometimes.
I mean, it's not for it, but I will say, a lot of those adult athletes is what we call them. When we really dig down, they do have a goal, right? They want to be leaner. They want to be lower body fat. They want to feel good to be able to run around with their grandkids. They want to bend better. So they are athletes in our mind, which is like, hey, they're running after a goal. And so we know we can train their bodies in a holistic way to where they feel better, they look better, they're moving around better, just like all these athletic programs. Right. Now we're not loading up weight on some of these adult athletes like we would a collegiate athlete or a high school athlete. But for me, when I just look at like my body, I'm old beat up fullback with 5 knee surgeries, and busted, I broke both collarbones, both wrists, and so you think about.
Bruiser.
Yeah, I was a bruiser, I was a head knocker.
For sure.
I couldn't block this guy though.
I'm getting out the way, man. Guys like you, Lorenzo Neal, I'm getting out the way, bro.
Yeah, for me, like I look at being able to still move and throw a ball with my kids and my boys.
Health is wealth at this age, man.
Man, I need to be able to do that, and I have to be able to get on this turf to do that.
Right. One of the features at D1 that I took advantage of, not necessarily during my time, but I saw it happening, and I definitely worked out with some players here, is combine training. You still go heavy with that, and now I know that you have NFL coaches that'll come and participate in the offseason for these college kids that are trying to make that jump to the next level. Yeah, we do combine training, and so for us, we have facilities around the country. We have certain locations where we really emphasize combine training, where we have the correct coaching staff, all the bells and whistles and all the things that these athletes need. For us, the combine training, it's changed throughout the years. I can imagine.
It's shifted a little bit. It used to be, it was all about, grind.
Yeah.
A lot of it is recovery. A lot of we're coming here, we're obviously honing in like the technical skills of how you run a 40, how you do a shuttle drill, those types of things. But a lot of it's recovery because they're coming off a long season. Right. They're coming off. Most of these guys are beat up, and so we got to get them healthy to be able to perform at the combine. People don't realize,
I never thought about that.
You go through a whole season, and then all of a sudden in 2 months you got to go run a track meet.
Bro, they ain't give a shit about us.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, hey,
there.
we got to get healthy. We got to work on the technique and all those things. So it's not as much of a grind as the combine training back was, 20 years ago. And the interesting thing, another shift that we've seen in the marketplace is because of NIL and all, these athletes that are in college, they're basically like free agents.
Yeah, they got bread.
We get a lot of these athletes that come in college. And so they're, they got the window in May where maybe they're not on a team or maybe they're in the transfer portal, and so they're able to come utilize our facilities and train just like a free agent would.
Right.
We get a lot of these pro athletes when they're, I can't name them, when they're holding out, they're at a D1 location, working out because, they need that refuge. They need sacred ground.
Yeah.
Right. That's where you can go, work out, be with a coach, get inspired. You're not on camera.
That's how it should be. That's how it should be.
So for me, this place has been a refuge for a lot of celebrity and pro athletes, whatever season they're in.
I would say that, when I was in limbo playing with the Giants, this was my spot to come to. So all those end of the career athletes holding on, you need rehab, you need protein, you need everything that you would get at your normal facility. This place will hold you down for sure. Hey man, I appreciate you having me come by.
Man, thanks. Hey, love what you're doing, man. Keep it up.
So I hear you're in the podcast game with your podcast, The Turf. Can you give me a rating?
Man, you did awesome. What are you talking about?
Appreciate you, brother. You
Don't hit me. I mean, you're like a 10. Don't hit me.
Nah, I need to come on yours.
Thanks again for watching another episode of Bullseye View. Yo, please feel free to leave comments, questions, and any other topics you may want to hear discussed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on the next one.
Bullseye View.